Okay, we're at the end of chapter 3, and we're about to do 3.8, rewrite equations and formulas. If you have time and after this, you might want to try the practice test. I've allowed the entire week that you get back from camp to be review and get ready for the test and take the test. We might have to do some, or we might want to do some percent problems. So just keep that in mind. So the preparation for the test is optional, but obviously will be better if you do it. Again, minimum, what I recommend, and I'm just letting you know here that when you are asked to write the equation in function form, that means to get y by itself. I'm going to talk about that in a little bit. Okay, so here we are, Viv, I believe actually it's the 22nd. 3.8. The first set of instructions say rewrite in function form. You might also see it as rewrite so that y is a function of x. Again, we have a function means there's an input and an output. And it's very common for the input to be x and the output to be y. So when we're writing in function form or when we are writing so that y is a function of x, we are getting y by itself. This has certain applications. If you want to plug it into your calculator, if you want to make it easy every time you're plugging in an x to figure out what y is, it's best to get y by itself. So we're isolating y. That's another way of saying it. And if you want to put it in a certain form, ax plus b, I would put the negative 3x first. If you write 8 minus 3x, that's fine as well. Now, if I'm going to divide this by 2, I have to divide every term by 2. The result is something that might look like this. However, if we had this and I divided by 2, another way I could write that is to divide the entire side by 2. And this is where you can't, this is a very rookie mistake. Students just want to cancel that and say 4, but remember 3 is being divided by 2 as well, and that's why you can't just cancel those. So this could be written like so, and actually this might be a little easier. Every time you had an x, to put an x in there, multiply by negative 3, add 8, and then divide the whole thing by 2. Might be a little nicer than having to multiply something by negative 3 halves. You'll see when this is valuable. You'll see when this is valuable. Either answer, as far as I'm concerned, is correct. In order to check your answers, you might have to be able to navigate between both. Again, if I'm asked to write this in function form, I need to get y by itself. So here I realize I have to do a little simplifying first. 8x minus 5x is 3x. And sometimes we aren't comfortable with the y on the other side, but you know how it's easy. I think it's better just to leave it that way, and let's now isolate y. So first I'm going to subtract 36, and my 3x, this becomes negative 15. This is 0, negative 6y. And again, I need to divide by negative 6, and I'm going to divide this whole side by negative 6. So your answer may look like this. Y equals 3x minus 15 over negative 6, or you might have negative 3 over 6x. Negative over negative would be positive 15 over 6, which then you could change that to 1/2. Again, you know, changing it up down here isn't as big of a deal. If you're going to use this form is certainly acceptable for evaluating. Somewhere along the way, these math books came up with this term literal equation, and all a literal equation is you have letters instead of some constants or coefficients. You know, instead of having 3x plus 9 equals 4, we have an a, a b, and a c. So the instructions in this case say solve this literal equation for x. What does that mean to do? Get x by itself. Oh, my handwriting's getting kind of bad. All right, so how would I get x by itself? First, subtract b from both sides. And I would get ax equals c minus b. And then how do I get x by itself? Divide both sides by a. So x equals c minus b over a. Or you might have x, if I divided each term by a, I would have c over a minus b over a. And again, each form would be more useful in certain situations. This looks pretty simple right now, right? If I was given a C, a B, and an A, it would be a lot easier to use this than that. Similar circumstance, solve this for x. Again, I had this written up here. When you're undoing, when you're getting x by itself, you're doing order of operations in reverse so that any addition or subtraction comes before any division or multiplication. Any addition or subtraction is going to come before any multiplication or division. Now I'm going to show you a couple things because I want to review some stuff. If this is a fraction, I could almost look at this and say that, oh look, there we go, we have a proportion, this times this. So 1 times x equals a, and remember that we need to distribute, right? A times this entire quantity, c minus b. Let's go back to what it looked like before. And if I need to undo dividing by a, I would multiply by a. And you do just have to realize, just like up here where maybe each term gets divided by a, each term gets multiplied by a, so you have to write it as a quantity. So a divided by a is 1, so 1x equals a times c minus b. If you want to go ahead and distribute, that's fine, but not necessary. The answer might have it distributed. The application of getting a variable by itself comes into play a lot when we're using formulas, and we might have certain quantities and we want to find another quantity, but we recognize the formula in a conventional way. So this is a formula for surface area of a solid, and it's telling you it's 2 times the area of the base plus the perimeter times the height. Maybe I'm going to be looking for heights. So I'm going to get h by itself. I'm going to solve this literal equation for h. So in order to get h by itself, first I have to subtract 2b, and s minus 2b is equal to perimeter times height, and now I need to get h by itself, so I'm going to divide both sides by p. And I would not want to do s divided by p minus 2b over p. Again, that would just take too long, because here is now what I have it boiled down to. Height is equal to the surface area minus twice the area of the base, all divided by the perimeter. So if I told you the surface area was 32 and the base was 8 and the perimeter was 4, you could plug all of those quantities in and get h by itself most readily if it's in this form. All right, so practice those, and you've done the chapter, and if you have time, you can start to prepare for the test. See you when you get back.